Whilst on summer break from art college, I would arrange to meet up with my friend Jamie. We first met on a summer school at Canterbury Art College, and then I bumped into him again on a foundation course at Maidstone Art College, and we've been good friends ever since. We both shared an interest in art as well as strange and supernatural stories. As Jamie lived in Bourton Aleph and I lived in Tenterden, we would arrange to meet somewhere on the Romney Marsh, usually at one of the old churches. It has to be said that I wasn't very good at maintaining my bike. Every summer I'd just extract it from some cobwebs in the oast and off I'd go. At the start of my journey was a steep hill, which was absolutely amazing, going down with the wind streaming through your hair and looking down across the vast expanse of the Romney Marsh stretching out before you. But on the way back it was a very different story. Straining every inch of the way on my 3-speed Raleigh racing bike. If you haven't tried it yourself, Romney Marsh is absolutely amazing for cycling. You can effortlessly cycle for miles and miles. So flat and peaceful, cruising along the country lanes on a summer's day, peering over hedges for potential painting subjects. It's just a great feeling of blissful freedom. It was in one such moment of great calm and serenity I was gently cycling past a van parked on the side of the road. Jamie was behind me some way, distracted by an old ruin, when suddenly, with a great creak, the whole van shifted on its axles, and this gigantic dog leapt out, bounding and barking towards me. It looked absolutely vicious. If ever I was to describe the hound of the Baskervilles, this was it. Jamie took off, having the advantage of about 100 yards distance, but I was there in the thick of it, in absolute peril and fear for my life. The giant hound, its demonic jaws snapping at my ankles, as my feet pedalled as they had never pedalled before. And, I'm sure, if it hadn't been broad daylight, this devilish apparition would have had an unearthly glow. Thankfully, we did escape, and the hound eventually gave up. My trusty bicycle had prevailed, serving me well in a time of absolute peril. It was, however, in the middle of nowhere, where there was this small popping sound, and I realised, yes, I had a flat tyre. And being typically unprepared, I realised I had not packed a puncture repair outfit, and nor had Jamie. And so Jamie cycled off to the nearest town of New Romney, as I sat at the deserted crossroads under the signpost that said it was 7 miles. When Jamie returned after an hour or so, we examined the full extent of the damage, and realised that my tyre was so bald and worn through that you could actually see the cloth webbing underneath. And so, unusually, we had to put a patch on the outside of the tyre as well as on the inner tube. But thankfully the makeshift mend held until I got home. I imagine that I did go out and buy a new tyre after that, but then it wouldn't surprise me if I didn't try and get a few more journeys out of that bald old tyre. Another adventure on the Romney Marsh was when we decided it would be a good idea to spend the night at Camber Castle looking for ghosts. Now, if you don't know it, Camber Castle is a big, abandoned, concentric 16th century castle out in the middle of nowhere. We could walk to it from Rye across stiles and sheep fields. Now, in those days, you could climb through a hole in the fence, get in, and happily explore and draw all by yourself, with only the sound of sheep bleating in the distance. Well, this was a bit of a blowy night, and we climbed up to the battlements with our sandwiches and sat there as it got darker and darker, waiting for ghosts. Well, it wasn't too long before strange sounds echoing around, amplified in our minds, imagining what they might be. And we sat there, trying to fulfill our aims. But at some point, we both decided it would be a really good idea to just get the hell out of there. Not to be defeated in our quest for ghosts, a few years before I'd taken part in an archaeological dig at the long-lost Ebony Church on the Isle of Oxney, which was now only an abandoned graveyard on top of a lonely hill, and seemed like the ideal place for ghost hunting. Well, we parked our bikes somewhere at the bottom and set off on foot. Having not been for some years, unfortunately I must have directed us in the wrong direction, and we ended up trapped in a field of rape. Whatever way we went, we couldn't find our way out. Those gnarled finger-like plants clasping at our feet, pulling us down. We were clambering through that field for what seemed hours. It was a very hot day. We became so desperate and dehydrated that we eventually climbed through a hole in a hedge and found ourselves in someone's back garden where a startled lady was hanging out her washing. You've got to remember that this was the time when alien crop circles were all in the press, and to this day Jamie still believes that it was some kind of strange, unexplained occurrence, inferring that somehow supernatural forces were at work, and a loss of time. How on earth did we get trapped in that field for so long? But in my heart I know it was because I was just being a fool and gave us bad directions.